Good evening and welcome to the Job Search Solution, the radio program where we talk about looking for a job, changing jobs, changing careers, hiring. And as always, we begin with a prayer. Dear God, grant us thy peace and thy mercy, thy will be done. Politics. Is there politics involved in hiring? Candidates never think of this. Well, we're going to talk about that. In just a few minutes after that, we're going to have Rich Savinsky talking about consultants in the workplace and what's going on in new issues these days with the new year. He's got an interesting topic this evening, as always. We also want to spend 10 seconds in gratitude. So think of 3 things today that you're grateful for. You can't be unhappy when you're grateful. Go. Being grateful, an attitude of gratitude. So politics. We know it goes on in all businesses. We never think about it in the interviewing and hiring process. What brought this to mind was that we had a candidate. We started working with a company that had been looking for hiring a mid-level manager for 6 months. Well, that right there told us that there was a problem here and that they had gone through a number of candidates and they couldn't be happy with any of them. And so they finally turned to us thinking it was going to get better. And we run into this kind of thing all the time. But whenever a company goes to look for somebody and it takes them a period of 6 months and they haven't found anybody, there's usually some kind of problem going on there. And we're faced with these all the time. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to solve these problems. We do the difficult things that people can't do for themselves. That's what we're paid for. That's what we do. We understand that. If it was easy, we'd be out of work. So we know that. Well, it turns out in this particular situation that an individual mid-level manager, she was looking to replace herself. Now, automatically, that's an issue because anytime a person is charged with replacing herself, she has to look in the mirror a lot when she goes to assess candidates. And to make a long story short, what it came down to was this lady really didn't want to replace herself that badly because basically a number of reasons. First of all, she was probably afraid that whoever was going to come in there was going to show her up, was going to uncover all kinds of problems that she had. And so far, politically, she was in pretty good stead with 4 other managers. Well, there were 2 managers that really liked this gal, and there were 2 managers that really didn't like this gal. So 2 people really wanted to get her out of there as fast as they could. 2 people really didn't want to get her out of there as fast as much as everybody else wanted to. And so people were jockeying for keeping her or not keeping her, or moving her out and not moving her out. They finally came up with a candidate that we presented them where everybody agreed this was the best candidate they had seen in 6 months. Unequivocally, had the best background, references were great, everything was really good. And after thinking about it a week, she decided that she wasn't going to hire the candidate, primarily because she felt like he was more of an internally oriented candidate rather than externally oriented candidate. None of us knew what that meant. None of us knew what that meant. I don't know that she knew what that meant. We know the people in the company didn't necessarily know what she meant, but what it came down to was she just didn't want to hire the guy. We came to the conclusion that she didn't want to end up hiring anybody. Now, eventually, they'll wind up changing her out because somebody will get frustrated with it and say, look, lady, it's your job, or replacing you so you can move on to another position. But we washed our hands of it and decided we weren't going to mess with it anymore. But there's always politics involved in an interview in a hiring situation, especially the longer the hiring goes and the longer the interviewing process goes, the more likely there is politics involved in it. Nobody wants to necessarily admit it. You as a candidate have to assess that. How much of this is politics? The higher up you go in the level of job, the more politics there is involved in the situation. And you need to be aware of that. Not everybody is. And you need to investigate it and be aware that it's going to be part of the deal. There's not much you can do about that except accepting it and understanding that there's always some underlying reasons for why all of these things happen. And for a company to be not able to hire somebody over a 6 month period of time after they had interviewed around 10 candidates, you know that there's got to be a problem and got to be a situation going on that nobody wants to really admit. Eventually, they'll probably work it out because they'll come to a conclusion. They'll say, look, lady, you got to move out of here or you're going to move out of here. But that's the way companies go and companies run because they're human organizations. So you got to take into account the politics of all of these kinds of situations. And most people don't very well do that. So think about that in your interviewing process of what part politics plays in it, a great deal or not. All right, we're going to take a short break. Stay tuned. This is Tony Bashir with the Job Search Solution.